Good afternoon, it's Tony Peters here with another quick update on the individual subsystems that I'm working on right now. So, as I talked about before, ECMS was something I was working on before, the environmental control and monitoring subsystem, um, the artificial sun module, things like that. This one is now the photocurrent measurement subsystem, where I'm trying to get an idea of what's actually impacting the cell, what's going on in terms of light. So, in order for me to do this, I had to kind of go and explore some new sensors that are out there. So there's one that I want to talk about today, which is this little guy here, the TSL 2591 and 2561. Right now I'm using the 2561. The 91 series has an IR filter, which I'll plan on incorporating later on. I'm still using the Metro 328 and standard 16 by 2 LCD here, but I wanted to talk about the 6.1 for a moment only because I want to get an idea of how much light is actually present in my system. Obviously, we want to get an idea of the magnitude of that, not just the wavelength. So we're using a couple creative programming tips that I picked up. Again, this is all C++ based, but you can actually work the gain and integration and type of data that you're going to get and convert everything into lux. And then you can go from lux to lumens using equation 3 that I have presented in the PowerPoint, which is essentially lumens is just a reflection of lux per unit area. So we can actually program that in if I want to later on, and you'll see that this is giving me data in lux, as I'll show you here in a moment. But I can eventually go to lumens if I so desire, but I could say based off of a 59 square centimeter cell, or I could just do those calculations ex post facto. I'd much rather rely to do those ex post facto calculations just because the varying size conditions of the cells may vary from time to time and test to test. So with that being taken into account, I'd like to just kind of worry about that later on. So the big two things that I mentioned here about the sensor were the gain and integration times. Right now I have them programmed in two completely different loops inside my program setup, which I'm more than happy to share my code with you as needed or required. Like I said, it's all C++ based. I had to take a little bit of a refresher in order to remember exactly what I was doing here. But so I could talk about the section of my code that's intended to manually set or gain or enable the auto gain support. Right now, I have it set up as auto gain, which was just switch automatically between 1x and 16x gain. And really what that varies is from a sense of known being on the one side and 16x gain, which I would use in lower light to boost sensitivity. When it gets into the black box, I'll probably program it to 16x. And it'll make more sense once I show the code if you're curious or at all interested. But the biggest thing was the integration time to give better sensor resolution. So 402 milliseconds would be 16 bits of data. So right now I initially had a medium resolution and speed, which is about a 101. 13 is about as quick as it can go. It's super fast, but really low resolution. Right now what I have programmed in is not only an auto gain, but I have a 402 ms, which is essentially the 16-bit data, but the slowest conversions. And I figured based off of the experimental design, that's just the nature of how I'm testing these cells. I'm going to set a position for my beta angle and then take a look at my conditions and then get a correlating IV, which this sensor will also be part of that PSMS, which will also give me the current voltage, and then I can figure out the power from there. So without further ado, let me just boot this up and you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. Starting up all the sensors, just like how I have all the code for all my subsystem sensors kind of working in tandem with one another. Give it a second. That's prescribed by the manufacturer to boot up before it starts giving you some information. And this one only takes about 1500. I have a neat little feature programmed in here just because of the way the shutter performs. If it gets so low to the point where it's 0 lux and it's just giving you nothing. So I'll turn this light off here and it'll immediately go down. And then if I put my finger completely over it, it'll give me a sensor error. And that'll go away after a second or two, as you saw. But essentially what that is meant to do is give the user some kind of feedback in a closed system where all you can see is the data on the one side. You don't actually see the LEDs turning on and maneuvering. So that could give you an indication that either one, your wiring is wrong, two, there's something wrong with the hardware itself, that the shutter is malfunctioning, or that your LEDs aren't even on. So this is just kind of how I have it set up right now. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to send me an email, and look forward to your comments.